So I started out one year with a new teacher. She had just moved here from middle school, and she really struggled to understand my kids, and she even made the comment to me one day that just maybe my kids need to try a little bit harder. And of course, at first I was very offended. I wanted to advocate for my kids and tell her all the things she didn't know, but I realized that would not get me anywhere. So this was a teacher that I started pushing into the classroom more frequently, and I've seen, we've worked together now for 4 years, and she has come such a long way from giving me tests or assignments, asking me to totally accommodate them or modify them, to now just occasionally checking when she runs into some difficulty. I've just seen so much growth in her understanding, and again, at that same time, me understanding what she has to do in the classroom. But I think that big thing is just that respect and that relationship, and just understanding what her role is and my role. And it's taken me 25 years to figure that out. So definitely I've had some changes in just how I view general education teachers, and a lot of that changed when I started going into the classroom and trying to support our special education kids. And I think there's just really been a misunderstanding between general education teachers and special education teachers, just what we do. I would give them their IEP at a glance and accommodations, and I'm like, just do it, read it to them, I didn't think what they were having to do until I started pushing in and seeing the rigor of the standards, seeing how much that they had going on in the classroom and how much more difficult that was to achieve. So that was a big turning point for me, as far as just trying to assist them, giving them ideas and suggestions, and just teaching them about our kids. I had so many teachers who just felt like our kids didn't try hard enough. That's why they were in special ed. So there's just been really, in my viewpoint, in my 24 years of experience, gen ed and special ed, we just didn't understand each other. I didn't understand the standards. They didn't understand learning disabilities or autism. And so working together and actually being in that environment and seeing all the things that gen ed teacher had on their plate really gave me utmost respect for them, first of all. And second, it really changed how I worked on those relationships. And just by assisting them and giving them ideas and suggestions, and then the next year, I didn't have to do that because there was growth within that relationship. So I think just walking a day in their shoes, and helping them understand what our job looks like. We're not just in the classroom playing games and having a good time or remediating, trying to do homework, that we're there trying to push those kids up from where they are. But I realized that I actually have the easy job because, we're addressing kids where they're at. And so we see them at their best, where the gen ed teacher is trying to pull them years and years up to, reach those standards, and at the same time trying to deal with her high kids and her middle kids and all the things. So definitely just that partnership just changed for me when my respect for what they did just grew.
In order for it to be successful, I think it has to start at the very beginning of each school year with communication with the teachers. Very first thing. Throughout the school year, it gets a little more challenging because of the time once everybody gets into instruction. But as long as that relationship and communication takes place at the beginning of the year, I think it sets the foundation for it for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And establishing that trust is really important. Like she said, like if they trust you, then they're going to do what they need to do for not only for the kids' purposes, but because they trust you and they know that you're not going to steer them wrong. I think it's also really important to explain the why behind why we're doing some things, because a lot of times accommodations may or may not make sense in the IEP to the teacher, and it's kind of like, well, he doesn't really need 2 extra days to finish this assignment. But when you explain the why behind it, the organizational issues that he or she may have, or the different things that he or she may struggle with their other health impairment, then they're like, okay. And I have found that once you explain, hey, look, if he doesn't need it and take advantage of it, fabulous. But what we're not going to is him taking advantage of this, and then they're like, okay, cool, well then I can do that. So working with them so that they know, again, establish that trust, but working with so that you're empowering them and building capacity, because when you work with somebody instead of doing it for them, they usually learn more. And then that way the next year when they have another student with an IEP, well, we've already got the relationship, as Miranda said, number one, and number two, I'm not going to need to spend as much time with that teacher because we have built that capacity with them for them to be able to do that for themselves and just kind of take it. And there's nothing more beautiful than that, is when they're like, oh, hey, look what I did. Look what I did for so-and-so. Look what I came up with. It's great. It's really a really good feeling.
Yeah.
So.
Just today, a teacher wanted me to come to the room, and they're like, look, I want to show you how I was able to get them to do this assessment. Maybe you can have them add this to their IEP, so next year the teacher can use these visuals for them.
Yeah.
So it was just to see the excitement on her face that she was able to meet the student's need, and she knew that to share that with me so I could share that with her future teachers.
Yeah. And you're so good at reinforcing stuff. I'm sure that you were like, yes. And
I was.
this specific teacher loves reinforcement.
Yes.
So if she thinks she's done a good job, she is going to continue to do it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. But again, just not doing it for, doing it with. Let's do it with. Let's be collaborative. We are a team here. And then always show your support. Be very supportive, because they're going to trust you. But you don't ever want to do it to them. You know, you don't ever want to come in their room and say, okay, this kid has an independent workstation in his IEP. I'm going to take this desk and just put it over here, you know, because as teachers, we're real type A, like that's kind of our house, you know. You don't just come in and do it to them, because that feels really punitive. So again, it all goes back to trust and communication.
Just building a relationship.
And building a relationship.